Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
So you buy a house that's either a custom home or it's in a rural or not in a subdivision in a city. Are surveys important?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we show them the picture? Because they like the picture.
Yes, pictures are good.
So we're going to show you this. This is up at Mt Charleston. If you've been up there, it's pretty rural. It's a mountain area just outside of Las Vegas. And this is a street, Alpine Way, and you can see the houses. And then superimposed over the aerial view are the lot lines that the U.S. Geological Service has down there. Do you notice anything unusual about the lines and then where the houses are? What do you see?
Well, so the issue at Mt Charleston is that a lot of houses are sitting on someone else's land. And the reason for that is because there were surveys done at different times, and the surveyors used a different starting point, a different landmark, a different monument. So surveyors call them monuments, right? So they use a different monument as their starting point. So when they drew the lots, depending on who drew the lots, it's different than what somebody else did. So of course the one that counts is the one from the U.S. Geological Service, and that's what the county goes by. But that really created a lot of problems up at Mt Charleston.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the street isn't really where the street is supposed to go. It's people's lot. Your lot's either supposed to go halfway to the middle of the street and then that's an easement, or it just ends at the street, right? And then you can see here some people's lot goes across the street, and then some people don't even own the land between the street and their house. They have to actually technically go through some land that's owned by who knows who to get to their own house. And then you can see a couple of these are obvious, like this one house right up above us where the line goes right through the house. It takes out about 5 or 6 feet of a corner of the house. And then the house next to it has the same problem. House across the street has a problem where that part sticks out there, it touches the other person's house. So the problem is this is a mess.
It is a mess. And
it's a mess because someone's going to go and actually get a professional survey done, and they're going to go, wait a minute, your gazebo is in my yard. And then the other problem you have is your garage is maybe in your neighbor's yard.
Right.
So, but the problem is nobody's gone and re-changed all the plot lines, and which is, you would think it'd be easy now with GPS. You could literally just say, look, I get this to here, to here, to here. That's mine. You record that as my property. This has caused quite a bit of problems.
Right.
For the most part, my understanding is that everybody's ignoring this problem. They're just, hey, look, I don't care. It's a vacation home. Nobody's litigating it. And if nobody litigated, you don't have a problem. So they just go by the house and say, well, it's a vacation home, whatever. Yeah, I'm on their lot, but they're on my lot, and it's all messed up.
Right. Yeah, so it is problematic. It's very important that you get a survey done. It's very important that your surveyor uses the appropriate monument so that everything is measured appropriately and plotted appropriately. And then, of course, that everything is double-checked back with the county and whatever governing authority there is, so that you're very clear as to what you're purchasing, and you won't hopefully have problems in the future. Because it is a problem if your living room is sitting on somebody else's land.
Yeah, and to keep this in mind, a lot of these houses were built in the 60s and 70s. And when they were built, there was just a pin in the ground somewhere. And somebody came off that pin a certain distance and stopped and said, okay, this is where your property starts. And then they kind of shot a line, and maybe, they didn't have GPS in the 60s and 70s. So they didn't, and if you go up there, you'll see that that's the style of the homes. The homes are not there's some modern homes, but a lot of them they just grabbed some land and built a modern home.
Right.
More modern home. You can also find this regular parts of the valley. Probably not as likely, but I guarantee you there's some houses where they put the wall up, and the wall is, you know, maybe 3 or 4 feet of their neighbor's land. They grabbed that yard, not realizing, or they just saw what looked like a natural transition. Oh, this, you know, my neighbor put up a fence, so I'll just put my wall right against his fence. But maybe he just put up the fence because he knew he really had 4 or 5 more feet, but he just put a fence there for whatever reason, because that's where he just wanted his dog to go. And then you put your wall right there. And then later your neighbor goes, I'm pretty sure that's my land, like on your side of the wall for like 4 feet. And if you put a brick wall up, that's not going to be easy.
Right. So, so just when you think that this is something that used to happen but isn't happening anymore, this currently just happened a couple years ago here in the valley, up in Henderson, in a very prestigious, upscale, super expensive community called Ascaya.
Yes.
So up in Ascaya, my client purchased a lot and then built a beautiful multi-million-dollar home with a spectacular view of the whole city and all that sort of thing, and it was fantastic. And guess what? For whatever reason, I'm not sure who made a mistake where, but the block wall, that is not just any block wall, it's a very expensive block wall that's been stuccoed and it's got designs on it and all kinds of things, is in the wrong spot. So
yeah,
this can still happen. So even if you have a survey and then you're having a custom home built, make sure that your contractor knows exactly where that fence wall is supposed to go, and that there's something in your contract with that contractor that says, hey, if you put that wall up in the wrong place, it's up to you at your expense to take it down and make it right. Because this was not an inexpensive wall. It was, you know, a 5-figure wall. No, I'm sorry, 6-figure wall. I don't remember. It was a very expensive wall. I remember that. And like I said, it was a multi-million-dollar home. So it is important that you do have your survey done. It is important that if you're building a custom home, your contractor knows exactly where everything is, and you have that clause in your contract to be sure that your contractor makes it right if there's a mistake.
Now, a long time ago in the 70s, when we moved here when I was a kid, the builder didn't actually build any of the walls on the side of the house or the back of the house. You were told, and this is before there was no HOA, you were told to negotiate with your neighbor when they built their house and moved in to put, now everyone has the walls. You have to have the walls. So you basically got with your neighbor and said, hey, let's throw a brick wall back there. It's going to be $700 total. We each pay $350, right? And then your neighbor would say, sure. And then, but today, more or not, the builders are just putting the brick in, and because it's too messed up to get people to negotiate later, because people say, I don't care if there's a wall there or not. And you're like, well, I want to put a pool, and I can have a pool. And then they say, well, you put up a wall and pay for it. But then you get to benefit from the wall too, because, right? And in places like that, a lot of times there is something in the HOA rules that says if there's a wall put up, the cost has to be split.
Right.
And then if you don't pay it, you can go to your HOA and say, hey, I put up a wall, he's refusing to pay it. The HOA can assess you and then start fining you, and then bad things can happen if you mess with the HOA.
Right. So, but most builders right now are putting up the fence walls for the backyards, and it's not really a big issue. It also eliminates contention as far as whether, you know, I've got 6 inches of your yard or you have 10 inches of my yard and that sort of thing. The bottom line is that probably still goes on as far as where the walls go. That may not be exactly what you were sold by the builder, but I'm sure that most builders have some lovely little clause in there that says, well, this is close enough.
Yeah. And
so because I know that builders also have clauses in there as far as the square footage of the home. You know, they tell you, well, you know, this model is 3,400 square feet, but if you read the contract carefully, it says this is an approximation. You know, it could be 30, you know, it could be something within 20, 30, 40 square feet of what you think it is.
Yeah, and sometimes too, the builder, you know, puts the base model in the tax record, but forgot that they added a loft or that they converted a bedroom, and it changes the square footage. But, you know, it's just, they're trying to crank these out, and whatever gets recorded, and then later on you go, wait a minute, the biggest one I saw was a 2,400 square foot house that was actually only 2,000 square feet. We'll do a whole nother video on this. because the builder originally had a finished garage because it was a model home. So when they recorded it, they said it's 2,400 finished square feet. And then when they converted it back, they took the showroom office area, turned it back into a garage, but they never re-recorded it. So the person bought it, and then they sold it to somebody, and the new person that bought it goes, ooh, a 2,400 square foot house. Then when they went to sell it, so it was like the second owner after the builder, they said, wait, it's only 2,000 square foot home. We thought it was 2,400, but that's what tax record says is 2,400. It was only 2,000 square feet. And you would think people would care. So anyway, the property line thing is something you really have to be careful of. None of this is legal advice. We're just pointing out practical stuff, right? And if it does get down to where you have a dispute, you probably need to go to lawyers and talk about, hey, how do we resolve this or whatever. A lot of times people can just resolve it by just saying, hey, I'll give you some money and let's just change the property line. So or you give them an easement.
Right.
You say, hey, look, just sign an easement saying that your house is on my land, but I have the right to let it stay there, and I can walk around, the side. I can walk through the yard. Like you're technically your yard. I can walk through it to get around my house if I need to. And then also something else potentially is you may actually already have an easement, because depending on how long it's been like that, if nobody's disputed it, then there's some stuff in there about and here's the other problem. This is why this is a mess. It could run with the property, meaning you go buy the property and then you go, hey, I've just got all this land over here. He thinks it's his, but it's really mine legally. And his shed is on it, so the shed is mine. But maybe not, because maybe he'll go, well, I've had that shed there for 20 years. And if there's a time frame where it has to be, someone has to say something, he could argue, well, then I have an easement for that shed to be there and I have a right to access it. It's not really your property, it's my property. That's why this thing's a mess, because it's not really, and how would you know that? How would you, if you don't understand how things work, you would be like, oh, really? You mean you have the right to just walk into my yard and use that shed? Well, I thought it was my yard and I built it there, and the old owner never said anything, so I have we learned about that in real estate school.
We did.
It's like a inferred easement, or it's like it's an easement of some kind where it's not in writing, but it's like, it's a well-known thing that everyone can use the land for something.
Right, but remember, all these rules and all these easements, all these different kinds of easements, they are specific to where that property is. So an easement in Pennsylvania is going to be different than an easement in Nevada. So make sure that you're following legal advice from wherever that property is located, because that is super important.
I'm going to put the map back up here so you can all see it. You can see that this almost impacts every property.
It does.
That shows up on this chart. Like every one of these. So the White House right above us, you can see that it's cut. Like that's a good 5 or 6 feet, if not more. And then the house with the sort of tan roof, you can see that a wedge-shaped piece of it is into the next door neighbor. The blue house that's right to the side of us there, you can see a little piece of it is sticking into the neighbor's yard. Then if you go across the street from the blue house, you have the house there where it looks like a piece juts out and it's on that guy's yard. And then his house too, it looks like a corner. And then if you go to the other house that keep going down, that's a long house, but looks like it's right on the edge. And you would probably never, and then if you go to the house all the way in the corner, in the bottom left corner, that one actually may touch 3, they're on their property, but then they look like a little corner is the guy behind him, and then a huge port is the guy right behind him. So he's actually almost on 3 pieces, like almost every house on this. And then the one way above us across the street, all those houses are on somebody else's lots. Like literally 80% of the houses in here are not fully on their lot. They're actually on somebody else's lot, because some guy did a thing and said, yeah, this is your land, build the house, right?
It is. It's a mess up there. Luckily, I think most people know that it's a mess. Those that don't, I'm sorry for you. And those that live up there, sometimes when somebody new moves in, they have a bit of fun with them and give them a hard time about being on somebody else's land and stress them out a little bit. But overall, everybody knows what's going on up there, and it should be part of their disclosures. And we'll do another video about how important disclosures are.
Yeah. Another thing too is, remember, if you want anything legally done, that you're a lot of times in front of the judge, and the judges are kind of be like, well, yeah, but it's a mess up there, and they don't want to be the one to try to start telling people to tear down an addition or do something like that. So usually it's easier to be like hands off and say, hey, why don't really, you're not really harmed. I can't see where you're harmed, right? Just because the record says you own this thing, but it's not exactly right. So you want to punish somebody, or you want a bunch of money, or you want to sue the last guy, maybe. But remember, it's your job to do due diligence. I'm going to say this right now: the square footage of your house, it's your job. It's not the seller's job to survey the house perfectly and then say this is exactly everything in the house. It's your job to do everything. It's your job to figure out the property lines. It's your job to figure out all of those things, inspect the home. So do it.
Absolutely. Do your due diligence, and make sure you get your survey done and find out everything you can about the property so that you know what you're buying. So if this video was helpful to you, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video, share it with your friends, and leave us comments. If you live up in Mount Charleston, please leave us a comment and tell us what's going on up there. We always love to know. We have had listings up there, and we have run into this, but it's always nice to know the latest and greatest of what's going on up there.
And if you live in Mt Charleston and want us to do a video walkthrough of your house,
yes,
so everyone can see the views, and we will interview you and talk to you about what you like living up there and what's it like, and if you live there year round or not, and if you just want to share that with us, we would like to go up there and video somebody's house.
Absolutely. It's really hot down here in Vegas. It's nice and cool up in Mount Charleston. Please invite us.
Yep. All right. So we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.